Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is April 15th, and today's episode is going to cover news about Rocket Fuel going forwards. We're also going to be talking about Langers, talking about who the team is talking to, on-chain vote official announcement. We're going to be talking about some Ethereum news, about Ethereum leadership, about Justin Drake's comments causing a bit of stir online, ZKsync keys compromised, and a whole lot more. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
So the first place to start today's episode is with this tweet that I put out. So I said, I feel like it's a new day for Ethereum. We're going to be talking about that later. And I said it's a new day for Rocket Fuel too. From now on, I'll be covering Ethereum news alongside Rocket Pool news on the show daily. Let's grow Ethereum together. So we don't have very good daily news for Ethereum. We've got some weekly stuff. Obviously, the main daily news that we had was Anthony Sassano's Daily Gwei, which was absolutely incredible. I watch every episode, absolutely love it. Like, for those of you who watch both shows, you'll see that a lot of what you see on Rocket Fuel is inspired and ties in with the stuff that, Anthony covers on Daily Gwei, and even some of his colloquialisms and like turns of phrase, I've kind of found myself repeating them just because I watched his content so much. So, huge respect for Sassel and like the work that he does with Daily Gwei. Without Daily Gwei, there'd be no Rocket Fuel. So I just wanted to clarify that first of all. After that, Sassel hasn't been producing episodes that much recently, and I feel like I want daily Ethereum news, and I'm sure other people, like thousands of us out there who want daily Ethereum news, and we're not getting it. So I figured maybe it's time for me to just put the content out there that I want to see in the world. So I'm going to start covering more Ethereum news, not quite as much to the depth that Sassel does, but more than I normally do. So instead of having 2, maybe 3 Ethereum stories, there'll maybe be 4 or 5 Ethereum stories depending on the day and what's going on. I feel really optimistic about Ethereum. I want people to see all the amazing things that are happening with Ethereum. So you'll get lots of bull content, but not necessarily deluded bull content, Ethereum 100x next week kind of thing with a thumbnail and that kind of stuff. You won't see any of that stuff here, but you'll see content talking about development, talking about launches, tokens, all that kind of stuff, things that people are excited about and want to know more about. I'll have that covered for you all. So yeah, that's starting today. Okay, let's start with some Rocket Pool news though. And Rocket Pool news is going to start with an update from Langers, talking about the different people that he's been talking to and kind of giving some feedback on how those conversations have been going. So first he talked about Thomas, who is the new Ethereum Foundation Executive Director. So he said, I had a call with him. He seems awesome. We'll be interested to see how he handles the priorities, and there is a lot he wants to do. The tweet is good though, defining EF goals and boundaries. So we're going to be talking about that later in the Ethereum section. But Langers, who of course is the kind of the general manager, I think that's his title, of Rocket Pool, he's having these conversations. It's really awesome to see that. So Jasper said, did he have anything to say about LST, staking, Rocket Pool, or was it more of a get to know you type of thing? And Langers then replied by saying that it was more to get to know you. He's been following us a lot, obviously, with his work at Nethermind. He was interested to get across the issuance discussions, and I mentioned that although barriers for decentralized protocols to compete are coming down, there's still more to do. Put him in touch with the Proof of Stake Alliance for development of policy. And then they went a bit back and forth about the issuance thread that they're both in. Here, then Sneaky Ninja Guy said, have you had a chance to connect with Etherealize? That's a group that is co-founded by Danny Ryan and Vivek Raman and a bunch of other people. It's gotten a lot of people in Ethereum really excited because they are the kind of like the business development arm of Ethereum on Wall Street, or the communication education branch of Ethereum on Wall Street. So that's what Sneaky Ninja Guy wanted to know, and Langas replied with, yes, spoke with Vivek, and I asked whether staking would be a product that they would be pushing, and he said yes. He also mentioned that decentralized protocols like Rocket Pool should be a part of any staking ETF. So that's really cool that they are mentioning the names of protocols like Rocket Pool in the ears of Wall Street bros. That can only be awesome for Rocket Pool. Then Ethereum Bull asked Langas, can we make BlackRock buy RPL2? And Langas actually responded by saying, he says, I did have a call with some researchers at Fidelity. They're interested because the internal team has grown rapidly over the last year. The people we spoke to write reports that go on to other teams such as product and investment. I've tried to make their life super easy, so our report is good, but it depends on whether there is any interest from the other teams. So yeah, Langas was giving some really nice updates about like where they are with different conversations. What's really, really awesome is that Rocket Pool is in the room, you know, where that's what we want, right? We want Rocket Pool to be in the room where the conversations are taking place, just like we want Ethereum to be in the room where conversations are taking place. And this is on a slightly different level, but the fact is that, you know, people at the Ethereum Foundation know what Rocket Pool is, they know what we stand for, they know the values that we have, and you know what the protocol is. And then with Etherealize as well, them knowing what Rocket Pool is absolutely awesome. And then of course beyond that, we really want Rocket Pool, known in these TradFi institutions, and for them to find out just how much Rocket Pool could benefit them. So yeah, Langas talking to everyone. It's really, really great to hear, and I'm super excited about that. Okay, official announcement of the latest on-chain voting. This is proposal 3, and this was Langas putting out a post yesterday saying the latest on-chain proposal is now open for voting. Proposal 3 increases the GMC share of inflation, RPIP 69, and automates payments for the next 9 rewards periods. So it says GMC share of PDAO inflation shall be adjusted to 25%. Reserve Treasury share of PDAO inflation shall be adjusted to 25%. And then there's a discussion, and then refresher on on-chain governance and how you should vote. There's information there as well. And just for the people who don't know, this proposal is in phase 1. So that means the main people who have had votes delegated to them are voting. And that will last until Saturday the 19th, at which point we will reach phase 2. And in phase 1, if you delegate to yourself, you could vote as well, so that's totally fine. In phase 2 is when people can override their the people they delegated their votes to. So for example, if someone's not happy with the way that I voted, then they've delegated their votes to me, then they can vote and override my vote. So that's pretty cool. So they will have 1 week from Saturday to do that. Let's have a look at where the vote stands right now, because we've had some more votes come in. And the most recent large vote was Langas earlier with nearly 900 vote power, and that has taken us to 85% quorum with 10,478 votes in favor of this proposal and 53 votes to abstain from this proposal. So it looks like, as things stand, if we can get some more votes in the next few days, this will be going to quorum, and it looks like it's going to pass. So this pretty cool start for the on-chain voting for Rocket Pool. Okay, let's move on to some Ethereum news now. And the Ethereum news is going to start here with news from Thomas, like we were just alluding to a few minutes ago. And this is him making an update of where, his taking over at the Ethereum Foundation stands as a co-executive director. So he says, this weekend I officially signed the contract with the EF. I've been waiting for some of the communication until this happened. And he says there was a delay on my side as I had to have my lawyers review all the Nethermind and Ethereum Foundation contracts in various jurisdictions, and it took much longer than expected. He said some more official announcements from the Ethereum Foundation board, myself and Nethermind, will likely be published later this week and next week. And he says since the beginning of March, he's had 150 calls and in-person meetings, plus attended the San Francisco events, listened to feedback, and constructed a very broad strategy document. And then he says, until Thursday, my days have mostly still filled with meetings as I'm trying to have one-on-ones with everyone at the Ethereum Foundation in the first weeks. What I'll do next is remain responsive on Telegram and Signal, but I will lock my calendar for a while so I can start executing based on feedback. I will now be working on converting my broad strategy exploration into a list of goals for the EF. I will share some goals that we believe should be addressed by the ecosystem rather than the Ethereum Foundation. I am discussing all of these daily with a group consisting of all EF team leads to ensure that we move quickly with full transparency, understanding, and agreement. And he says, thanks for your patience. In the meantime, both Shao Wei and I've already been executing many internal operation adjustments together with the team leads. So David Hoffman said, when are you coming on Bankless? And people just responded with a lot of positivity. ICOB says bullish, to be honest. M-Team says this is based, etc. said keep the comms coming. Kevin Owocki says any plans to open source the strategy document. And a whole bunch of other positive comments. Hani Abu says amazing example of great communication. So Thomas has just been making such an amazing impression, in all honesty, and a lot of people are tweeting out that they are like on board with this, with Thomas being the co-executive director. He's just made the most amazing impression. I tweeted out about this yesterday as well, as I read the post. If we have a look at the quote tweets, mine should be at the top, but no. Yeah, there's a lot of people, Jai saying Ethereum's in war mode, and Peth saying Ethereum is on the comeback part of the arc. Mujit is saying bullish on Ethereum again. And yeah, this is some really, really, really positive sentiment. Anthony Sassano says the era of Thomas begins now. So yeah, this is really, really cool news. And I'm excited to see what comes next from this. But yeah, and then, of course, Langas from the Rocket Pool team also saying that he was one of those 150 people who met with Thomas and talked to him about Ethereum staking and all that good stuff. So that's really, really cool to see as well. Okay, so in yesterday's episode, I covered this back and forth with Justin Drake, kind of mentioning what he sees as the future of Ethereum. And there was actually some more discussion that came up around this, and it actually got quite big. So I figured it's a good worth having a look at again. And here Justin Drake says, here's my stance. We scaled L1 by 1000x, going to 10,000 transactions per second. And the L2s will go up to 10 million transactions per second. And here Storm says ZK VMs are very exciting. However, I still think you should explicitly disavow the stance that the L1 is not for users. Even if you believe that most activity will happen on L2s, L1 quality is critical. Messaging needs to shift from L2 centric roadmap to an L1 and L2 roadmap. So Justin Drake replies by saying, I hereby disavow the stance that L1 is not for users. It's for the top 1%. No, it's the top 0.1%. Early adopters, yes. You, rollups, whales, arbitragers, institutions, enterprises, nation states. And then Dankrad, who is also a Ethereum researcher, says, for the record, I don't agree with this. Financial and similar high-value use cases can have a place on L1, no matter the user. And Justin replies by saying, you're right. No, I agree. It's just it'll be the top 0.1% of transactions, not quite the top 0.1% of users. L1 access is ultimately permissionless, and the fee market naturally filters for the highest value activity. Now, this comment by Justin Drake actually got a whole lot of drama, and a whole lot of people with from Solana ecosystem were kind of critical of this. Here, Max Resnick, a famous turncoat, if you want to kind of call him that in exaggerated language, says Ethereum is for the 0.1%, Solana is for everyone. Austin Federa says, my basic thesis that L1 should be for as many people as possible. And then he says, Punya says, bro, this is losing platform to Solana roadmap. Seraphim says, this is begging for a pump shitter. So yeah, there was a lot of debate with this comment. I'm just going to focus on a couple of things, but you guys can dig into it a lot more yourselves and see what the replies were like. But David Phelps actually had an interesting point. He says, I know that I'm broken record, but the Ethereum Foundation needs to hire marketers. He says, one weekend with a narrative expert who gets everyone to agree on user and mission and phrasing, and you won't have top figures fighting in the timeline about whether Ethereum is exclusively for billionaires. And this is a screenshot of Dankrad replying to Justin Drake saying, I don't, for the record, I don't agree with this. I guess, I kind of agree with David here is that people in the Ethereum Foundation really should be working on messaging and having a unified message and kind of talking these things out privately in public, not, kind of disagreeing with each other like this. It's great that, the Ethereum environment is open in such a way that these kind of discussions happen in public. I really like that about Ethereum. I love that about Ethereum, actually. But I think certain things, there needs to be a bit more refinement and a little bit more polishing about messaging, and this is one of those areas that we need everyone at the EF to kind of get their heads on straight about their messaging and how they're talking about layer 1, layer 2 users using Ethereum and L2s and rollups and all that good stuff, and what that's going to look like. And even though Dankrad, what he and Justin was saying wasn't that dissimilar, right? Even with Justin, the next reply was saying that I agree with that. What we don't want is this kind of this tension point kind of happening in public, because there's no need for it to be there. It really should, all of this should be fixed in, like David Fitz says, in a one weekend narrative expert seminar, and everybody to kind of get on board with this. Here, Angzar actually had a really good point. He says Justin is right that even a massively scaled L1 will eventually hit limits. Where this wording misses the mark is it will be on us to make that an irrelevant implementation detail. L2 provides infinite overflow space. Using them needs to be a seamless extension of L1 UX. And M-Team says the plan is to do this with native and base rollups, right? And Ansgar says, for now, I'm agnostic to the tech path, but yes, those two do seem to be a promising direction. So this is what Justin calls ultrasound rollup, is if you have a rollup that is native, meaning it uses the EVM, and then is based, meaning that it shares the sequencing, it does the sequences at layer 1 validators, and then a rollup, meaning that it uses Ethereum blobs as DA. Those are ultrasound rollups. And I guess the idea is that if we have those three attributes together, then Ethereum can scale to these millions of transactions per second, while also having value accrual happening at the L1, and that is, at the moment, that's what looks like the best path forward. Ansgar is right, saying that there is agnostic to the tech path, but the idea is that that's what you want, and I guess at the moment those ultrasound rollups are the best path forward, I think. Okay, news of a key mismanagement / hack happening at ZKsync. For those of you who don't remember ZKsync, it was the much lauded L2 rollup that started with ZK instead of optimistic rollup, and sadly its TVL and mindshare has been kind of down only in a lot of ways. There has got a few promising things building on there, but I think the optimistic rollups, especially out of the OP superchain, has really captured most mindshare in that space right now. But anyway, ZKsync had a security breach where an admin account that had control of around $5 million worth of ZK tokens was compromised, and those tokens were stolen. It looks like there was the key was taken away from the airdrop remaining tokens. So these were tokens that people didn't claim from the airdrop. And it says this is an isolated incident caused by compromised key and confined to the ZK token airdrop contract. And it says the investigation is ongoing and details will be shared later. People were quite upset in the replies, and rightly so. You don't want to see this kind of thing happening, but it looks like we're going to get, it's going to take a while before we get the investigation, but it says update, the investigation has revealed that the account that was the admin of the 3 airdrop distribution contracts has been compromised. The compromised account's address is this. The attacker called sweep unclaimed function that minted approximately 11 million unclaimed ZK tokens from the airdrop contracts, and then there's a mint transaction, and it says the transaction inflated the amount of token circulations by about 0.45% of the total token supply. This incident is contained to the airdrop distribution contracts only, and all the funds that could be minted have been minted. No further exploits via this method are possible. And it says the protocol, the token, governance contracts, everything else is safe, and the attacker is still holding the majority of the funds on this account. Then there's an address. It says we're coordinating the recovery efforts with Seal, Org, and exchanges. We're encouraging the attacker to get in touch with security at ZKsync to negotiate the return of the funds and avoid legal liability. So yeah, the person was able to sweep this contract and claim the tokens for themselves. Alex here, who works with ZKsync, who the founder of ZKsync, says we're actively investigating this incident. I'll publish a full update once the investigation and recovery efforts are complete. I'm happy to take your questions here and will answer them to the best of my knowledge. So a whole lot of people were asking questions here and kind of getting answers from Alex. And this is actually like a new thing that's happened since the issue with Bybit. And that's when, the founder of Bybit came out and was very public about the issues that had happened there, and getting right in front of the community and kind of managing the crisis. And I think that's where we're going to see more and more of that now, with people like founders and senior people in ecosystems getting front and center when something goes wrong. So it's great that Alex was doing this, but yeah, let's see what happens about this. There's a new Vitalik blog post, and this is called Why I Support Privacy. And Vitalik here is talking about how the state of privacy in Ethereum needs to be improved, and how it needs to be better. He says privacy is an important guarantor of decentralization. Whoever has the information has the power. Here in the article, Vitalik makes a few different points. He says privacy is freedom. He says the top layers of global politics would be generally well-intentioned and same. He says our culture would keep improving with privacy. And then he also says, but why not allow government backdoors? He says, in practice, not just the government, but also kinds of corporate entities of varying levels of quality who would want access to the backdoor. Individuals who have access will always feel the pull to abuse it by selling data or information to third parties. The data can always get hacked, and the regime can change into a less favorable one who would also have that access. And then he says, privacy is order. And then he made points here about how democracy, like things that make democracy work, is having a secret ballot, and how that's fundamental to the world that we have right now. And then he says privacy is progress as well, and talking about how programmable cryptography and other things have come through this desire for privacy. And then he says privacy can be progress for keeping our society safe, and talking about things like zero knowledge proofs of personhood, privacy pools, on-device anti-fraud scanning, and proof of governance for physical items, etc. And then with AI, he says that there have been issues with ChatGPT, and they have all your information, and he says that there could be ways of fixing some of the problems with AI, like running computation locally wherever possible, using cryptography to make sure everything is private, and using hardware verification to extend the guarantees of the physical world. And then future imperfect, Vitalik shares a quote from David Friedman here, and then finishes post. So yeah, give that a read if you're interested in it. It's definitely nice to see Vitalik's thoughts on privacy and really pushing these back to the front of Ethereum. I think that's really important and really cool to see. Okay, Spire, who are a rollup team building a based rollup on Ethereum, have introduced something called a DA Builder, and this is a way of helping Ethereum use the blobs in a really interesting way. And these guys will saying that they're going to allow blob sharing to happen. And it says rollups can reduce their data availability costs and lower transaction fees for users. So right now, if a team wants to post data to Ethereum, they have to buy a whole blob. I'm pretty sure there were previous projects that were talking about like splitting blobs, but it looks like Spire now have come forward and built a product to do this, which is pretty cool. M-Team here, who is the co-founder of Spire, he says that I'm very excited to announce a new Spire product geared towards rollups of all varieties. DA Builder can save you dollars, improve your security, reduce centralized exchange withdrawal times for your users, and help Ethereum scale DA. Please reach out if you're a rollup operator who's interested. So this is really cool that they're building this tool that anyone can use, and it will just make it better for all users. So good job, M-Team and the team at Spire. Okay, a few months ago, we had the release of Vitalik and Ethereum Story, which is a movie that was released about Vitalik, and you could watch this at ethereumfilm.xyz. Now it is actually available on a bunch of different streaming services. In the US, it's available on Amazon Prime and on Apple TV. So if you are interested in watching the Vitalik movie, as people called it, you can go and watch it on those services. I think it's available as a video on demand, so you have to pay to watch it, but it's just a lot more convenient for people to watch it now instead of minting the NFT and getting access to the portal. You can actually just watch it on your TV, which is really nice. Okay, today there was a post from Rabbi and a bunch of other people saying that their service is temporarily unavailable due to an AWS outage. That's Amazon Web Service outage, and they said that we're actively monitoring the situation and get back online as soon as possible. They're actually quote tweeting Binance here, saying that they're aware of an issue impacting some services on the Binance platform because of AWS as well. And then a little while later, they had a post saying that everything was restored. What's really interesting here is that Lefteris, who works with Rotkey, said that a big chunk of decentralized quote-unquote crypto is down right now because of AWS sneezed. He says, let that sink in. If your infrastructure collapses when Amazon has a bad day, maybe it's time to rethink your stack. I've been preaching local first, self-hosted tools for years. Software like Rotkey keeps running because you run it, your machine, your data, your rules. And he says you can use the app and then you can download the information. So this is actually really, really important because, as a lot of the web system is built on Amazon, if something happens, then you can say that Ethereum is unstoppable, but parts of Ethereum would stop because of this. Not Ethereum itself, but the Ethereum ecosystem would stop. Having mirrors of front ends and having ability to run front ends locally, this is so important, and I really think that people in Ethereum should take this more seriously. I really hope that it's something that happens going forwards, but it's difficult. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that to your attention as well. And finally, I'm going to end the episode with this news from Nic Carter about Signature Bank, and he had this article saying basically that Signature Bank didn't have to die, and it was basically I was killed. So Nick's been teasing this since yesterday, saying that big news is going to drop, and it was this article. He basically says that when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, the FDIC rejected multiple credible offers to buy SVB, and then there were basically like lobbying efforts going on to in Washington to try to save people's deposits, and it was only when Nancy Pelosi stepped in that things were able to get sorted out. And then the FDIC seized Signature Bank to invoke the systemic risk exception, which would allow uninsured depositors at SVB and other banks to be made whole, even though Signature was solvent and had liquidity to handle a crisis, sources allege. So basically the idea is that here Signature Bank was kind of killed. You can read the whole article. I haven't actually been able to read all of it yet, but it was from the banking crisis that happened in 2024, I want to say. Sorry, I should know that. It was 2023. Time in crypto goes by so strangely. Yeah, 2023. It's been 2 years already. So even now we're just getting the information coming through, but yeah, it basically the picture that's painted is that the FDIC didn't want there to be a successful crypto bank because they were trying to clamp down on crypto under the previous administration, and they let this bank fail rather than let it be successful. So yeah, big drama there. But on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all have a lovely day ahead, and I'll be back tomorrow with more Ethereum and Rocket Pool news. So see you then. Bye.